Hello and welcome to For Your Journey. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Travis.
And today we'll be learning about learning.
Learnception. So recently in the January beginning of the year webcast with District Apostle Kolb, one of the points from that service that he touched on was about this culture of learning. And I know that's something we've kind of heard a little bit about recently.
It's been in some Vision newsletters, and that's just like a theme that kind of keeps coming around.
Right. And I think it was a theme because we live in a dynamic time. Mm-hmm. There's always more to know, this body of knowledge to know, not just from a spiritual standpoint, but just from a cultural standpoint. There's more information to know, and we have more access to it than ever before, at quicker speeds than ever before, with smartphones and all these different online resources and devices that can help that. And it's really hard to continue to expand that at a pace to keep up with it.
Yeah. And that has kind of a secular case, and also kind of in a faith context too, that theologians and Bible scholars continue to explore and better understand Scripture, and there continues to be a growing body of knowledge there as well.
Yeah.
And I think that when we are unwilling to say like, oh, there might be something more for me to learn, we really prevent God from working in that way.
Yeah. Because human notion, maybe not all humans, but it seems like it's very easy to get to a point when you're like, I feel like I know everything I could know. Mm-hmm. There's so much information out there, and I know what I need to know.
And then you turn the corner, and there's a whole new room.
Yeah. That's something, going back to a biblical example of like the Pharisees, they were really well versed in like the laws and the traditions of the time. Like they knew what they knew.
Maybe memorizing massive portions of it, maybe all of it, which is hard for many of us to even imagine.
And from what they knew and felt that they understood, God's plan kind of hinged on the prophets and this hierarchy of the temple and all kinds of things. And they knew it really, really well. But then eventually, like, they became obsolete. Because when God introduced the next stage of His plan of salvation with Christ, they didn't want to learn
Jesus says there's a whole new room just around this corner,
right?
And there continues to be more, and we can be in that same place where God's trying to say, look, I want to show you so much more right here. I want to show you what's next. And we're like, oh, I already learned. I know everything you told me. So.
And even when they'd quote like laws to Christ and reference scriptures, Christ would be like, as Scripture as it is written. Like he even said, like, I didn't come to get rid of those laws. I came to fulfill them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and expand that body of knowledge.
Right. So in that body of knowledge, like, is it safe to say that God's plan changes? Like, could someone say that God's plan changes as we're on this journey of development?
I think that's a really great question, because sometimes we sort of, when we're reading Scripture, it's really easy to be like, oh, but like it seems like God does a little like change in attitude, or change in the way he's working or what he's saying. But it's also important to see that like God is as a constant, and God is kind of the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, kind of is the famous quotation. But like God remains constant in that, but He continues to reveal Himself, and there continues to be more for us to learn.
Yeah. The words of Christ, He even was telling His disciples this in John the 16th chapter, verses 12 to 13. Christ is telling them, I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. However, when He, the Spirit of truth, has come, He will guide you into all truth, for He will not speak on His own authority, but whatever He hears, He will speak, and He will tell you things to come.
Yeah, it's almost like Jesus is saying, like, you don't have any more bandwidth. I can't funnel any more information into you right now.
Right.
There's some things you need to experience over time.
Yeah, or you'll only understand this experience after you've had this experience, and we're here.
Yeah.
Like there's kind of building this progression, which reinforces like this developmental journey that everyone's on. Personally and also collectively as a body of believers.
Yeah. And as we go on that journey, I think it's really important that we kind of have some focus areas, that we say, okay, there's a vast body of knowledge, I'm not going to absorb all of it. It's not going to happen in one instant. There's
Right.
no wire transfer
Right.
of information or something.
And that takes kind of this huge amount of humility to acknowledge to yourself, like, I don't know it all.
Yeah.
I don't know it all. And a term that I've read that I like is called healthy curiosity. Like, there's just this healthy curiosity to develop more, and it's a sign of humility to acknowledge that we're struggling to grasp, the will of God for us and apply it to our lives.
And in that place, I think the kind of one very crucial tool is prayer. Prayer is this place where you can bring kind of this humble attitude to God and say, I want you to feed me with the right bits of knowledge for me to advance in my faith. And some of the knowledge could be about prayer. There's many, you might say, kind of experts that have spent a lot of time in prayer and writing good pieces of literature about it. And there's a lot of prayers in Scripture that we can digest and say, how did David pray? How did Moses pray? How did Jesus pray?
And for us to pray more effectively, it's not necessarily just about increasing a quantity of prayers, that could be part of your plan to develop a healthier prayer life, but it's also about just intensifying our prayers with the thoughts and just a stronger intensity of the content of our prayers, not just more elaborate words that we use,
Yeah. And then it can go in many directions. Learning, it has just almost a fractal kind of thing. It can go this way and that way, and keep expanding with worship and understanding what thankfulness is like, and understanding what forgiveness really means, and really thinking about what are the different ideas about forgiveness in secular and sacred contexts. And there's so much to learn.
Right. So kind of there's always more to learn, and by continually learning, we reduce our risk of kind of becoming obsolete so that we can be good messengers of the gospel.
Yeah.
And we're continuing to learn about the gospel and about ourselves and about God and how all those relate through more effective prayer, through worshipful attitudes, through thankfulness, and through forgiveness.
Yeah.
I think.
If we want this culture of learning, we want that for our communities.
Yeah.
We've got to do the work.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of For Your Journey. If you have any suggested questions or topics, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter. And once again, I'm Travis.
And I'm Andrew.
And this has been For Your Journey.